AI in music making is a big topic right now, in fact in pretty much every industry, and it's not too hard to see why when you consider that things like ChatGPT are already getting kids through homework that they couldn't otherwise do, getting people through job interviews as well, and it's fair to say that most movies that we watch now thanks to CGI are as much programmed as they are performed. But where does this leave music? Considering that we're seeing AI in so many different facets of life, is it already affecting music? How will it affect music moving forwards? And how should we feel about that? Well, that's what we're going to unpack today. So let's get started. AI in music making is very much on the minds of both music creators and audiences right now, and I think this is a conversation that's only going to grow over time. Now, having myself worked in studios, done songwriting both professionally and as an amateur, haven't we all, and worked with so many aspiring musicians, I must say that I can see that there are many reasons why people would be concerned. But first of all, to have this conversation, we've really got to go back to why is this an issue? Why is this something we would think about? Now, it may seem obvious at first to work out why AI in music sounds like just such a terrible thing to begin with. I mean, let's face it, AI takes the personality out of music. It takes the humanity, that personal touch that's supposed to make a song relatable, that gets it through to your feelings and makes you enjoy it that extra little bit more. But I'm going to put this into something of a frame of context so that we can think more about why AI itself is a very big concern for the future, but is not completely unprecedented. So let me try this little thought experiment with you first of all. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to list a series of pre-AI music production techniques that effectively take the control away from the human and hand it over to some sort of non-human or process technology. And I want you to tell me, at what point would you say, no, that's the line, that's where we've gone too far, that's where the humanity's been taken out of the music? Now, the first one I'm pretty sure we all agree is okay is things like effects. Say, whether it be a fake echo put onto something, maybe even the distortion on an electric guitar when it's used in rock music. I think most people at this point would agree that's okay, although we all kind of know that initially guitar distortion was something that people didn't like, but hey, we got used to it, we all liked it. It's just an effect being added. It's fine. The next thing I would say, maybe moving forward to like the 80s, is the idea of having sampling. So when you sample another piece of music in your music, whether it be dance, whether it be hip hop, that idea of taking a loop of someone else's music, putting it into something and making an entirely new track using it. So you didn't entirely create it, you took something from someone else, but you made something from that. I think there's some people who wouldn't be okay with that, but when used properly, most of us acknowledge that it can actually be used for good. You can make something good with sampling at very least. Now, the next one is one where a lot more people might well jump off the boat, and that is the subject of auto-tune or pitch correction. Now, I say that, but I would also add that I did a poll on my previous channel. I'll try and find that and put that up on the screen so you can see it now. However, it basically showed that when asked to our audience, mostly rock fans, mostly people into the same bands that you guys are in, if you're watching this channel right now, I was surprised how many people were okay with auto-tune as a concept, and several actually were fully on board with it being used as a legitimate creative tool. So we all know what it does. It takes away the need to perform the notes correctly from the singer. Yes, it can be stylistic, but ultimately it means that the computer is doing a part of the performance for you. And yet a lot of people are okay with that. Whether they consider it a stylistic thing or not, it's not something which is a total deal breaker for everyone. It has some more poor usages, but overall, I don't think it's something that would immediately make most of us switch off and just say no. So what's the next technique we're moving to? Well, I guess rather unsurprisingly, it's that linking point between auto-tune and AI. It is Vocaloid, or in other words, where the computer is performing the vocals entirely and you're just really programming it and telling it what to do. Now, at this point, effectively, we have gone all the way up to AI actually writing the song. This is the point where performance has been completely removed. This is the point where we're programming the entire song in the same way that you would program a CGI environment for a big blockbuster action film. It's one of those sets where basically everything is green screen and it's all been designed by someone sitting in a chair. Would you be okay at this point? Well, ultimately, your answer is very much personal to you, but I'm pretty sure that anyone who's been following me up to this point would accept that various people would have stopped at various points along that particular thought experiment. And that really gives you an idea that before we even get to AI, there has been an ongoing conversation about how much control humans have to have in their songs to define whether it is a personal feeling song or something that feels too fake and too manufactured. And as you can see, that parallel to movies is quite fair as well. Now, given everything we've discussed so far, it must be pointed out that all of those things really were in relation to the performance of music, and if you like, taking the humanity out of how music is performed. And performance in itself really comes under one of three major areas. One being performance, obviously, the next being songwriting, and the third being lyric writing. Now, I would usually put lyric writing under songwriting, but there's a reason that I'm separating the two right now, which is because of the fact that, as you may well be aware, AI lyric writing has been around for a while. In fact, there have been many artists of recent producing songs using ChatGPT to do lyric writing. And it's something that is quite worth pointing out because of the fact that, as we all know, the thing that makes products like ChatGPT and some of these other AI text-speech bots so interesting is because of the fact that when they speak, they can use references to produce something that feels very convincing. Now, yes, when we look at AI art generators, it's still possible to see where they reference various other things, but when we're looking at just AI text, it can be gaining references from poetry, from books, from all kinds of sources, from encyclopedias, and we ourselves cannot necessarily recognize those various sources so well. In the same way that people have been known over time to steal lyrics. This has been something that has been particularly well noted. In the same way that we see plagiarism in songwriting, plagiarism in lyrics has existed for a very long time, and often it's much more difficult to tell the difference between homage and actual theft in lyric writing than it is in various other facets of producing a song. So it must be said that AI lyric writing is probably pretty indistinguishable from the human thing, considering that AI can reference the greatest poets ever to exist, the greatest books ever to exist. Can we really say that an AI can't write lyrics that we would find deeply emotional? I don't know, but I think it's fair to say that an AI probably could, if correctly programmed, produce extremely convincing lyrics. So we've gathered that we're okay with various areas of performance being taken over by AI. We probably have to accept that lyric writing is something that AI can either do pretty much as well as humans right now, or at least, given the current trajectory, is going to be able to do as well as humans. So what happens when we get down to the core of actually writing the notes, writing the song, writing the arrangement, writing basically music? Well, before tackling what I guess is really the core of this entire video, I should point out, for anyone who doesn't already know this channel or hasn't heard me rant on previously, that this is the area where I'm perhaps most biased. I basically hold that songwriting as the core thing that goes above all else. When it comes to reviewing a song, I always look at the arrangement, the notes, the way that the song is crafted. Yes, musicianship is great. It's really lovely. You want good musicians. However, I'd rather take a group of very poor musicians playing a beautifully written song over a group of fantastic musicians twiddling away some generic 4-chord riff with some solos over the top. Lyric writing. I like good lyrics. However, lyrics as a general tend to be icing on top of the cake, something that I will gladly accept if they add something to the mood. However, I'll take generic lyrics if they're there. It's not such a big deal for me. I am more about the music. That's what I really care about. And, when it comes to that, therefore, I have a vested interest in this particular subject, and yet I have to admit that this is a difficult one to really say. I don't believe AI would ever be able to do a good job. Now, does that mean that I wanted to do a good job? Do I want the job to be taken away from humans? No. But let's first of all just quickly discuss the fact that when you look at music such as classical music, such as soundtrack music, such as jazz, often styles that don't have lyrics in them and yet can convey huge emotion, the reason they can convey emotion is because of the fact that it is very easy to, if you know how to structure chords, if you know how to do those right things that produce those right feelings in the very notes and the very systems of scales that we've all learned about in music, then you can produce human emotions just by simply putting the right notes in the right order at the right speed. And yeah, can AI achieve that? I'm pretty sure it will be able to achieve that, because ultimately it's a mathematical thing. In the same way that we look at a chord, and a chord is made out of the various notes that are the various fractions of the distance between an octave itself just basically being a wavelength chopped in half or doubled in length. It's mathematics. There is no reason why, in the same way that we've interpreted music and the sound waves that various notes produce in order to work out how we can make scales that elicit certain emotions, in that same way, there's no reason why that can't be something that AI could learn and be programmed into it. And yes, I do believe that AI could write a song that would genuinely move you to tears with no lyrics at all. So the question is, really, can AI be the full product? Everything? Can it create the great songs of the future? And do we really want that? And if not, why not? Well, to be fair, the best way of analysing this is by looking at the three real layers of possibility. One is AI producing the entire musical product on its own. The other is one where we don't know how much AI involvement there is in music, and it's probably concerningly more than we would want at heart to feel it is. And the third possibility is just AI not really being used that much in the future. Now, unfortunately, the truth is that it's probably going to lie somewhere in the middle. When it comes to music completely produced by AI, where the performance is done by AI, the writing is done by AI, the lyrics is AI, everything is AI, I think we will always see that as being artificially produced music. That will always be something which will be its own little niche. Yes, it will become popular in the same way that we have all kinds of weird things that become popular from every now and then. In the same way that things like Hatsune Miku, the kind of personality-given Vocaloid, has her own sort of celebrity status, but is seen as something of an outside. In the same way the whole Vocaloid genre is its own very much outside genre. Yes, there will become those times when we see music that is completely AI produced, where maybe even the AI produces its own character as a sort of AI art project. But I always think there'll be something separate. And the reason is because as humans, we want a relatability, and that relatability sometimes is just in seeing the human being performing the song, just in seeing the face, just in seeing the name of the person who wrote the song for Hatsune Miku, the fake character, to sing. Just knowing that there is some human behind it that we can relate to is often very important to us because of the fact that we feel a connection. We can follow the story of that human. I'm sure we're not going to all follow the career of an AI as it develops, but we like to follow the career of humans and see the various traits that their music has, whether it be a performer who has a certain voice, whether it be a songwriter who has a various style. Yes, I know that AI can probably copy any of these things, but I do genuinely believe that that human element of wanting to follow the story, the narrative of a person's career, will mean that completely AI-produced product of any kind will always be something of a curiosity genre in its own little space. Now, when it comes to music that has absolutely no AI input, yeah, of course that's going to still exist. There will always be genres like that. However, I have to admit that the music industry is a dog-eat-dog world. Everyone wants to get that next step up. I'm sure for every person who maybe passed their homework or coursework by just feeding it to ChatGPT and letting it do the work for them, there will also be someone who genuinely did a really good job, wrote something they felt really passionate about, but then maybe ran it through Grammarly just to check, or maybe went that extra step and just checked with ChatGPT to see if it had some better sources, and maybe just went, oh, I like that, and put it in. The truth is that in the dog-eat-dog music world, we are going to find a situation where even the most pure of heart person is going to at least reference AI in the future. When it becomes so ubiquitous and so available, they're going to at least want to see what AI suggests. And so we are going to end up with that situation. I see adverts regularly. I mean, as you all know, we see tailored adverts, and unless you've got this all blocked, I see adverts all the time as someone who's interested in songwriting and works with songwriters, for these MIDI packs where basically you tell it the mood or something, you give it the core notes, and then it writes the chords to go over the top, and no one sees a problem with that. Which always, I find that shocking. It's like, if you give it the core notes and then it gives you the chords back, it's like, that's a very large part of the songwriting, in my opinion. And so it's interesting where people draw the line, in the same way we were talking about musicianship earlier, because it's something that so many of us can relate to. It's so obvious, it's so in front of our face. The same thing applies to songwriting. For each person who writes a song completely on their own, there'll be one person who just gets the drum machine and maybe just runs through a couple of preset beats beneath their song. They're just getting, it's just the beat. just getting the beat pre-programmed. Oh yeah, beat, running it through a computer, that's fine. And then for each person who does that, there'll be someone who writes like a one-note bass line and then gets the chords expanded upon by a chord pack. There'll be someone who wants to run their lyrics through maybe a rhyme dictionary online, and then might take that a step further when they really don't know how to resolve a particular phrase and might get an AI chat generator to work out what the next line of their rhyme should be. The truth is that it's going to be harder and harder as AI gets better for us to really distinguish the difference. So as an audience, where can we really land on this? I mean, the truth is, whether we like to admit it or not, we all know that we're basically just going to have to kind of get used to it. In the same way that we get used to, in movies, yeah, we know the big CGI blockbusters, and yet at the same time we look at movies that are much more subtle, and sometimes we ask, did they do that with CG? Sometimes it'll be so subtle we don't know, and that's kind of okay when it just really works. So I have to admit, it is something that I can understand people having a difficult feeling with, and yet I do feel that we'll be somewhat saved by those elements I mentioned before, by the knowledge that no one's really going to 100% accept something completely produced by a computer with no human input, partly because of the fact that there won't be a narrative, there won't be an artist to follow. We all like to get into groups and follow artists, we all like to be shared fans of a particular artist, and maybe we're just very racist in the fact that we would much rather all rally around a human than a random computer with a serial number. Oh no, I'm kind of okay with the fact that we're willing to preference humans in that particular sense. In all honesty though, I think it's that willingness to be fans, that willingness to be part of an online fan club, an online fan community, watching an artist grow, feeling that connection to them, that will stop music becoming a completely AI-generated source. And yet at the same time, we're going to have to acknowledge that however much we respect artists, with the ubiquitous nature of AI, there's always going to be a degree of it slipping in, and we're never going to be 100% sure, especially as the technology develops, where it might have been used. We'll just have to have faith in the very artists who we do support. In the same way that we go, I respect you for your judgment as a musician, singer, songwriter, whatever it is. We respect their judgment for how often they feel like using a little bit of AI trickery. And we'll respect how they choose to curate it in their music. And that really is the main takeaway. I think we will become closer and more fond of the artists that we love because of the fact that we will know that they are the anchor point to the music that we enjoy. We'll be able to relate more to what they contribute in the knowledge of what can be contributed without human input. We'll be able to identify what makes their music unique because of the fact it still sounds unique in a sea of so many opportunities to produce something that is fake. And at very least, we won't consume and enjoy the music unless it's good, right? I certainly think so. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on AI music. I'm planning to do more videos in this little series looking at things like the technology in music, talking more about the theories and hopefully sharing some discussions with you guys. Get in the comments, tell me what you think, and until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these. For now, ciao ciao.